This video is an introduction to the Presonus Studio 1810C. This will be the first in a series of videos. When I was first looking to buy this audio interface, I struggled to find many videos, and certainly not many that had streamers in mind. So I'm going to do this series based on streamers using it, although it will probably be useful for other use cases as well. It will be broken into several pieces because I want to go into a fair amount of depth on each bit. So I'm not going to do an unboxing exercise. If you want to see that, I'm sure there's other videos of that. I'm just going to keep this simple. So here's a photo of the Presonus Studio 1810C on my desk. So this, as you can see, is the front of the device. 4 XLR ports in 2 stereo pairs, 1 and 2, 3 and 4. The first 2 can be for an instrument or for mic or line, and the second 2 for mic or line. It's in my use case, I'm not going to use an instrument, but if you had a guitar or something, you'd need to plug it into these first 2. It has a display on the front there which shows the level of the inputs to these 4 ports. Okay, you have your 48 volt button for the phantom power. That works to turns the phantom power on to all of them simultaneously. You can't independently select them. The mute button here is simple, just mutes the main output. It doesn't actually mute anything else, so it's just the main ports, which I'll show you on the back in a minute, and the AB just switches which set of headphones are listening to which mix. I'll go into that in a lot more detail in a future video. And the line just sets the line level for the XLR ports. Using microphones, you won't need to worry about that. Over here we've got these 2 knobs on the right, these 2 little knobs just to the right of the main knob. They control the 2 sets of headphones. Again, this one has 2 headphone outputs, and these 4 control the gain for each of these 4. Okay, so let's look at the back now. Okay, so you can see I've got some of the connections connected here. So over here we've got our 2 headphone jacks. This is my headphones are plugged in here, and the second one is underneath. The 2 main that's your main output. You can see these are all in stereo pairs. You've got 3 outputs. So your main output, that's controlled by the big knob on the front, and you've got 2 more outputs. You've got a coaxial SPDIF, however you say it, input and output. ADAT in, so it's an optical port, like the Toslink port, but it's not an SPDIF one. It's a different standard. You can't just take an optical cable from the optical port on your motherboard and plug it in there. It doesn't work like that. It seems to have limited use in the modern days, but Presonus do sell a specific device which is mainly to add extra microphones to your setup. If you're doing it for streaming, the chances that you need more than 4 is probably pretty remote. Also got the MIDI input and output. USB-C connector doesn't power it. Power, as you can see, is over here. It's got a power button. So the 1810C, the one below it, 68C, and the one above it are all powered by the mains and have a USB port, which is just for data. The 2 at the bottom of the range are both powered over USB. Okay, I'm going to give you just a brief overview of the universal control. So this works pretty much for everything that Presonus make. Most of their modern range control through this universal control. And I'll see if I can see it show. So yeah, so you see we've got all the 1810 here, the 1824C, that's the one above it. There are some without the C designation. They don't have USB-C connectors. They're all USB 2. Even the USB-C ones are USB 2, not USB 3. Okay, and the Studio 192 is actually a range above this range. It's a separate range, and it actually has more functionality than the than this Studio range. I looked at a bunch of YouTube videos about the Studio 192, and the functionality that's built into it, I assumed was going to be included in this, but it isn't, which is part of the motivation to make these videos. Okay, so anyway, that's enough about that. So once you're in here, you can click on this and it opens this little panel with all these sliders so you can mix the sounds. I'm not going to go too much into everything on this here. I'm just going to show you around a bit, and then do a future video on actually using it. As you can see my microphone is actually is there. You can see me when I'm talking that it's moving around. Okay, so this is nice and condensed. How it is. It doesn't start that way. When it comes, see, these are all in stereo pairs. And I've forgotten how you stereo. Oh, I was up here. So you can undo. It's not that. It's that. There you go. So track 1 and 2 are now separate, and I can do the same over here. There you go. So you can do that with all of these. So it gets quite big, and that's not all. Over here in the settings, you can also show the ADAT. So that's the inputs on that Toslink optical port that I was showing you earlier. Now, this is insane. They're all along there. All of these ADATs, they're actually in pairs as well, as you can see. So look how big it is. It's taken up on my screen. You won't be able to see all of this. So if I put these two back in pairs, there you go. So they're all in pairs, and that's with all the ADATs activated. You can see it's quite wide. That's not too bad. It's just a bit too wide for the screen, which is kind of annoying, really. If you put them into single channels, it's obviously nearly twice as big. Okay, you can also change the color of these, and I just do this on this sort of entirely arbitrary system that blue is my microphones, and these three are just different colors. That one, the way I use that is actually I feed the microphone back into it if I want to do that for some reason or another, which is why it's blue. Okay, I'm going to just go and hide the ADAT because it makes it quite difficult to use. Something that's a little bit annoying is that none of these do anything. These ones here, they don't actually seemingly have any function. I'm not sure why they're there. I assume on the model above they do, and it's just it hasn't been disabled on this particular version of the software, so they're all shown. That I have seen screenshots, and that one does have an extra output over here. So it is a different piece of software or a different version of the software, but this for some reason hasn't been dealt with. If anyone knows why that is the case, then please leave a comment and tell me, because I'd love to know. These buttons up here duplicate what's on the front of the screen. So we had where if I get that a really good photo up again, there we are. All right, so your 48 volt button, you mute, line your phones. I mean, and actually, if you click one of those, it does change. That's obviously a photo, so it's not going to change it if I click them. But if I turn I don't want to press any of these while I'm recording, except for maybe I could press either of these. These are fine, muting them, and they're not going to make any difference. Okay, I'm not going to press the reset button because it just returns everything back to how it started. I don't want to do. I can adjust this down, and it stays the same. Now, they have improved this fairly recently. A few releases ago of the software, when you opened it, it opened up all stretched out, and that was a bit annoying. What else can I say without going into too much detail for this video? Let's talk about these mixes. So your main mix is what comes out of the first headphone port and the main output, and it's what's controlled by that big knob on the front of the screen. That is the same. This control, when we're in main mode, this controls the main mix and what comes out of there. Mix 3, mix 3.4 and mix 5.6 are alternative mixes. Now, mix 3.4 will come out of the output 3.4 that's on the back, and also the second headphone port. Now, if you press the AB button down to it lights, the first headphone port also gets this. So you can have two mixes on your headphones. Basically, you can have the normal one, which is the same as main, and you can have the second one, which is the same as mix 3.4. However, the second set of headphones only ever hears mix 3.4. Mix 5.6 only comes out of the output. You can't route that to the headphones. Then you control the master volume of those. There's no controls on the front of the output for these, so you can only control these via this slider here. Something else to note is that you can't take one of these mixes. These three mixes can't be sent to the computer. There are ways to get your audio into the computer, but that isn't it. You can't collect any of these and say, I want to mix it this way, and then send that to the computer and it listens to it. You can't do that unless you route a cable from either the main output or one of these two outputs into the computer's line in port. There's also the SP diff. This is the SP diff out. And you can see that either is a copy of the main mix or it's a copy of one of those, and you can switch it between it. If you had a coaxial in on your computer, you would be able to take it from there and send it to your computer that way. But again, it's the same as like connecting it really. It'll just be the digital signal instead of the analog signal. Actually, I've just realized I've made a bit of a mistake earlier. This one can always controls the main mix. Say I'm on 3.4. Mix 3.4 is controlled here, and if I switch to that, mix 5.6 is controlled that. If I switch that to main, that's not there. So if I pull it out, you see the other channel that was there is hidden underneath. Because I'm not connecting through those outputs, I find that I don't really need to use that. And the headphones have got control on the front of the panel, so that's really all I need in the use case I'm using. As I've got it set up, I don't actually have any separate speakers. I have got integrated speakers in my monitor, which are fine if you just want to hear like Windows sounds and stuff. But if I want to listen to music, I'll use my headphones, and I'm playing games, I'll use my headphones. So I don't really need anything plugged in. I am fiddling around a bit, and I've currently got the 6.3 or 1/4 inch mono plugs going to a 3.5mm stereo plug, and that's going into my monitor's 3.5mm jack, and I can just on the monitor's OSD, I can actually just change that from using the HDMI signal to using that if I want to. I haven't actually done that yet, but it's part of what I'm playing around with at the moment. And the advantage of doing that is that I can then control the volume of the monitor speakers with the big tactile knob on the front of the 1810C, where at the moment I either have to use the Windows sound control. I can use voice meter. If you've not seen my voice meter videos, you can go and have a look at those. Or I can use the rubbish OSD thing to try and change the volume of the speakers on the monitor, but the OSD is awful, so it's not something I want to do. I'd rather have the knob to control the volume and a mute button that I can just easily use. Now that to me seems to make a lot more sense, and I'll be doing that. The only disadvantage is I've got a cable then running into my monitor, which I've got to just manage. Otherwise, it looks a bit rubbish. Just going back over to these. As I've hidden the ADAT ones, and I've told you that these don't actually serve any function. So just looking at these, all of these now set in stereo. These ones that are coloured on this side, they all come from the computer. And I'll show you where they are. So in the sound control panel, they are here. 1810C, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2. Now this little bit here might just might give you a little bit of confusion. This one's called one main out 1.2, so it seems to sound like it's talking about this. And this one's 3, 4, this 5, 6, this, and SPDIF. Well, the SPDIF port on the back. But actually, that's not what happens. They come in here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the SPDIF one is there. That does seem a little bit confusing. However, in here, if you click this bypass mixer, it won't go there. It just goes straight to the ports. So depending on how you've set it up, you might want this or you might not. And I will be covering that in again when I look at some other things. So there are different ways to do it, but that might just lead you to a bit of confusion because they have this naming convention, but then don't appear. And in fact, there's actually this SPDIF one here as well. So you might think, well, if I send it to this SPDIF from the computer, it will come in here, but it doesn't. That's because that is the physical SPDIF in coaxial input on the back. So these 10 channels, 5 pairs, they relate to physical ports. These 4 relate to digital output devices from the computer. These 4 here. And then, as I said, these don't actually relate to anything. They're just there to just clog it up. Having done that, you can then send whatever mix of this you want to your 3 sets of outputs. So if we go on main, and you can mute and solo them. Solo, if you're not aware, just makes that track the only track you can hear. So if I click that, all the others mute. See, and you unmute it and it goes back to how it was. These sliders control what the main mix hears. So if all of these are unmuted and you've got signals, you've got devices connected to all of those, you'll hear all of those things going out through the main. And you can mix the volume of each one that goes to the main output. It also goes to the first set of headphones. So how I've got this arranged, you can see I'm not listening to my own mics. These are muted, but they don't need to be because there's nothing plugged into them. This one is most of my system sounds come in there, game audio. This one is my Discord. This one is music, and then this one is to feed the microphone back. I've just left it like that. As you see, so all of those will be sent out to the main mix, but those won't because they're muted. And I can change the volume of each one here. Now, mix 3, 4. Now, what I use this for is, and I haven't got it set up the way I normally use it, is I unmute that. So I keep the same, but I listen to, this is so I can listen to myself. And then, because remember there's that AB button that changes the headphones to mix 3, 4. I press that button and then I can hear myself talking, and the rest of this is the same. I mean, I haven't got the balances all the same at the moment, but that's actually gives me an opportunity. So if I click copy mix there, move down, click on number 3, paste. Now those are the same. It hasn't kept it's kept the sliders in the same place, but the muted things haven't changed. So these first 2 are still unmuted. And 5, 6, well, because I've got nothing plugged into 5, 6, it basically serves no purpose. You will notice that when that slider is all the way down, the signal is still up there. Now, the signals that go up through these inputs are sent to the computer, and they're sent on the sound control pad's recording tab. You can see them there. Studio 1810C, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and the SPDIF will be there somewhere. Oh yes, all the ADAT ones are all set there. There's a SPDIF. and the ADATs are all there as well. Even if ADAT's turned off and you got nothing plugged into it, they still show there. You could hide them or deactivate them if you wanted to in Windows. There's also this virtual one, which I'm going to come back to. So regardless of what you do with these sliders, those signals still come in, regardless of what mix I'm on. So I'm on that mix, and let's go on 3.4 because the microphone's See, you can see me, you can see that level is just coming in there where I'm talking. But if I reduce that and keep talking, it's still there. It makes no difference. These faders only control what go out of the physical outputs on the 1810C. They don't control what goes into the computer. So anything there you have to control inside the computer as you'd like. Beyond that, I think we're pretty much done as much as I can do for this video. Other videos I'll be doing a setup for OBS. I'll be doing a video showing using it with Voicemeeter, which there won't be much to that. It'd be pretty straightforward. I'll probably do a setup using Studio One, show you how to pull it into Studio One. I don't have Audition anymore, so I won't be able to show you that. Although I think I did an example of connecting your audio interface directly to Audition, which I might be able to reuse some of that footage. But beyond that, I think that's about it for this video. If you found it useful, please like the video. If you have any questions, please put them forward. Don't forget to follow the channel if you want to keep up with the next videos in the series. And you could also follow me on Twitch and Mixer, where I do my streaming, and on Twitter. And I've recently just set up a Patreon as well, if that's of any interest. I am doing a few extra videos on Patreon. They'll mainly be like cutscenes. A couple of times I've done these videos and ended up with full sections that I've decided to not go with because they're just making things too complicated. So I'm working those into like their own little videos, which will be even worse produced than these are. And if you're interested in those, you could sub to my Patreon, and you'll have access to them on there. I'm also planning to do a few more sort of candid type of videos on there, some like completely off topic things that haven't got anything to do with streaming or to do with setting up OBS or audio. So if that's of any interest, then please pop over to that and have a look. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.